About the Epstein files in general. It got everybody talking, man. The pictures that's coming out, man, is wild, yo.
Yeah. Listen, Art, you're never going to get all the Epstein papers. You're never going to get all the MLK files. You're never going to get all the Malcolm files. And let me throw this at you, Art. One of the reasons Donald Trump released the Malcolm X and Dr. King files is because he knew that they were going to force him to release the Epstein files. And he wanted to make sure he left a good enough taste in black people's mouths so we wouldn't hold him to task too much. You see how that works? Let the Malcolm files out. Let me get the King files out. So black people are so busy studying the Malcolm files and studying the Dr. King files, they won't have time to worry about the Epstein files. And the reason President Trump don't need black people worrying about the Epstein files, instead worrying about the Malcolm and the King, Art, guess who most of the victims were on Epstein Island? Black children. The Epstein Island is right by the U.S. Virgin Islands, Art. You get to it from St. Thomas. I was there. They told me the whole story. They told me how they would fly them in. They told me the airport where they would put them at. They told me how they would gather the black kids and fly them out. They said they would come in on domestic airplanes, right? Or like anybody else. They would fly in like any other tourist, and then they would be shuttled along to a private airport. That's when they would get on Epstein's plane or whatever plane, and then they would fly them to Epstein Island. They said this was not a secret in St. Thomas. They say, Dr. Umar, what Epstein was doing on this island was not a secret at all. And there's no way he could have done it without the U.S. government knowing what he did. And a lot of those victims, Art, they were our children. They were our children. And guess what, Art? They didn't always fly them in from America. They often got them from the U.S. Virgin Islands. In the Caribbean, Art, one of the biggest problems in the Caribbean is the kidnapping of black children. Let me ask you a question. I done been all over the Caribbean. When I asked them what are the main problems for black people, one of the biggest ones that always are kids. Art, how in the hell are you kidnapping kids on an island surrounded by water? If the island is surrounded by water, Art, how the hell are these kids getting off the island? They're being flown by Jeffrey Epstein's planes. They were getting black kids from across the Caribbean, Art, and serving them up to Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because it started getting too dangerous flying them in from America all the time. Even though they were still doing it and never stopped, it was more convenient to get them from the Caribbean islands. Poor children, the islands don't really have that infrastructure to investigate where they're going and what's being done to them. Haitian children, and they sent them to Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump, I'm telling you, I believe that if those files are ever redacted, and they won't be because the Zionists control the Justice Department, if those files are ever unredacted, Art, we're going to see that Donald Trump, even if he didn't participate, and some people would allege that he did, but even if he didn't participate, I believe that there's enough information in the unredacted Epstein files that will show Donald Trump was at least complicit in knowing about it and doing nothing. He was too close of a friend to Jeffrey Epstein. They were too tight of buddies. They were too involved with each other as social companions for Donald Trump not to have known what Jeffrey Epstein was doing. And the only way he's going to avoid going to jail is to do whatever the Zionists tell him to do. Topple Ibrahim Traore, topple Venezuela, and do everything else we tell you to do, or you will be next. Did you see that video that came out 2 or 3 days ago, Art? Donald Trump was at a podium. He was at a podium with a bunch of Zionists. And the Zionists, I think he put his hand around President Trump and he said, he is the first Jewish president. And Donald Trump, I found it on the internet, Art. This is recent. This is only a day or two. He put his arm around Trump and he said, this is the first Jewish president. And Donald Trump's eyes got really wide because I don't think he expected that to be said about him. And you can see he did not want to agree with it, but he had no choice. And then right after the Zionists said, this is the first Jewish president, Donald Trump said, you're right, I am. When have you ever known anybody to bully Donald Trump into saying something he don't want to say, Art? When have you ever seen Donald Trump get bullied into saying something he didn't want to say? He did the other day. I'm telling you, Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad agent, and his assignment was to entrap every high-ranking politician and businessman and entertainer in America, entrap them, and through blackmail, we will coerce them to do whatever we want them to do, or they will be exposed and imprisoned. Donald Trump is in over his head, and I hope my sister Nicki Minaj gets herself out of this situation before it's too late.